bolt that one up and use this one, or leave it set down like that and it drops it down on the conveyor. Okay, let's go back around to the front side. Your return rails, you got those up on the top are your return rails, and then your limit switch I was telling you about is right up there, the park switch. And one of these rakes has got a tab on it that goes by. Let's see. I don't see it. It's in there someplace. There it is. It's down here. But on our return rails, we have wear strips, and these are hardened wear strips that are on there, and they're bolted on. And then you can, if these start wearing and need to be replaced before it gets into this, you can unbolt them and put new wear strips on. And that one up there's got the same thing on it. So this is a hardened material. Now, your carrying chain, this is your large carrying chain, 6-inch pitches. I like to say we've got it about 3 inches off the floor right now. So if you have to adjust it, the only adjustment you can make is take a pitch out of it to keep it up off the floor. And if you're dragging the floor, you'll see this back side along here start to get radius. And you'll start digging a hole down there. And somewhere in the future, it might have to be adjusted, but I doubt it, with 3 inches of clearance off the floor. Now this is the rake plate I was talking about that's welded onto the rake. This is called a rake assembly, and this is your rake plate, this one on the front. And this thing is laser cut, and it's pretty precise. So what they do is weld this on. You can get these bolted or welded, and I'd say 90% of them are welded on. And if these start wearing out and get down to the point where you got no teeth left on it, they're wore, you can install another one right over top of that, and you can weld out here on the sides and behind the teeth. Stay away from in the teeth grooves. You can do that once. Then after that, you either have to take the rake off, buy a new whole assembly, or grind these off and start all over again, which everybody usually buys a whole new assembly and puts a new rake on it. You got a counterbalance on the back. You got 4 bolts on each side to hold it on. The rakes are slotted for movement this way. So if you need adjustment, you can back and forth. There's 1 inch of slot there, so you can go from center half inch each way. And each one of the rakes can be, if you have to adjust them, but right now they should be all adjusted. Got an engagement. Down here in the bottom, you've got a bar rack with a 5/8 inch opening in it. Maintenance-wise, nothing on it, just an observation. You'll see the wear bars. Somewhere down the future start wearing. The rake will want to drop down a little bit, and you might have to in the future, we're talking years out, replace the wear bars on it, or some other means of getting the rake back up, back in position again. But that's way down out in the future. This thing here is called a dead plate on the back side here. It's got wear bars up the side. The rake rides on. Again, those are your parts that are wearing. Just keep an eye on those, see what they look like. Lubrication is going to come out of the channel for lubricating the bars and the chain. So they're just observation type thing. I'd say 90% of these things are observation. Just look at them, see how they're doing. They're not jerking. They're not. Everything's tightened down, and see what they're doing. The review: 10,000 hours every 2 years, weekly on the bearings. Observation on the chain. And that's about it. Now we've got a station here, handoff operation here, and you got a handoff operation out in the control room. And there's a sequence of which you have to have. That's on the print. It spells it out that you can't. Well, I found out you can't have this one in hand and you can't have that one in hand because the relay chatters. You gotta have this one in hand and that one in there, I believe in auto, and then everything runs okay. So you want to read on the print There's a sequence of operations. So read the sequence of operations for the handoff operation here and in there too. Anybody got any questions so far? How many think?
Is there an e-stop?
E-stop? No, not out here. It's just the e-stops that shut it off right there. There's a stop inside, I believe, on the controls. I'll have to look and see. I'm not sure. Yeah, everything's supposed to be operated from out here. Any questions? Yeah, I guess we'll go next door and I'll show you the Emitron and things over there. Okay. She asked about an e-stop. We've got an e-stop over here on this thing. That doesn't do you no good for over there, though.
But this will always be on auto here and
Yeah.
just run everything from
Yeah. So, like I say, you want to look at the sequence of operations for this one and that one over there, how you have to have them turn.
there.
Okay. This is a control panel. These are the numbered, the bar screens are numbered for each one. This thing right here is your Emitron. Let me power this thing up. First of all, we'll start off. This thing will measure percentage of horsepower. And the way you do that, it'll tell you in this little thing here. Sometimes you got this, and we usually put it in sheets in the O&M. But this is the operations for this thing right here, and it's step by step. Shows you what to do, programming it, so on and so on. And this thing will run horsepower percentage, kilowatts, or kilowatt percentage. And right now we're in horsepower percentage. If you want to change it, you hold down the plus and the reset, and this thing will start scrolling through what you want to stop at. Kilowatts, that's your kilowatts readout. You keep holding this down. Kilowatt percentage, that's the percentage. Then it'll go to horsepower. That's the horsepower. Then it'll go to horsepower percentage. Come on. Horsepower percentage. Leave it at horsepower percentage because it's more precise at horsepower percentage. And that'll tell you that right there, how to set that thing. So if you need to, that's it. But you should never take it out of horsepower percentage. It should stay in horsepower percentage at all times. Okay. The first 5 things you want to change, you scroll through this thing, it goes from 0 to 100, and it only goes forward. You can't back up on it. That's the worst thing. If you miss a number, you got to go back around. So 1 was the percentage of horsepower. That's your voltage, amperage. I have to look see what 4 is. That's parameter lock. So yeah, if you want to lock the thing out, you can. So nobody changing anything, you can use that. And then that's the 2 hash marks explains to you programming. You can either run this thing over and underload both conditions, and the 2 hash mark means it's overload and underload. So we've got it set for overload and underload. You can set the thing for underload only, and you can set it for overload only. 90% of the people use just the overload, just because those are conditions. If it reaches something, gets in there and jams it up, it'll shut it off. So we got this thing set for over and underload. Now the next step is 11. That's the actual readout of what this thing is using. What you've set in percentage of horsepower. So in other words, this thing out there is running is set at 60% of the horsepower of the shaft out there. Now, if it reaches 60%, it'll shut it off. So it's been running at 60%. It's enough, but as this thing gets wore in and gets a little bit loose, you might want to drop it down. And the way you do that is on program 11. You can raise or lower it by plus, raise it up, and then it'll start blinking on you. So if you want to set something in, you hit the enter. So you've entered 67%. That thing's good for 67% now. So let's bring it back to 60.
Now 60 is considered fairly high anyways, isn't it?
Yes.
If we get a storm flow where we really put a load on that thing, that's going to...
60%, you can run it all the way up to 125%.
Oh, no. My question is 60 gives me plenty of room
60
for
should give you
a
plenty of
severe storm flow when those rigs are just about getting overloaded.
You have, keep an eye on it, but I'm pretty sure it'll be okay.
We get buried here.
Okay.
Rocks.
Boy, you put me on the spot, don't you?
Well, I'm just telling you the way life is.
Yeah, I
you
know.
It's,
I understand.
so that's why I asked you.
Yeah, it. I built in enough. It works a little better than a shear pin.
Sure.
If you had a shear pin in
Oh,
there.
yeah, I don't want to fix that.
Now, you know, you'd rather do this. I'd rather do this.
Except he's going to lock me out and I'm not going to be able to get in there anyway.
Okay. But
You'll find a way.
Don't worry, don't worry. These
Yes.
hands can go anywhere.
60%, I got it set at
Okay.
for 60%. But my suggestion is keep an eye
Yep,
on the thing.
yep.
Now, like in the middle of the night, if you've got a real downpour and everything comes flooding in here, you got somebody on duty to come out and take a look at it, or is it just you? Are you here all night?
I'm here all the time.
Is that right? Okay. You might want to check it, open the thing, and look in there and see what it's doing.
So that trips, how do you reset it?
How do you reset it? It's got a
automatic.
reset button on it. Now it'll show you right down here your faults. Where's my faults at? It'll start blinking on the screen your faults. Your alarms, it'll give all your definitions. It'll spell it out there what's wrong. Pre-alarm max level reached. In other words, you've reached your alarm. If you see a F with a dash in it, this thing also has a pre-alarm in it. But in other words, you'll have a bell and whistle come on someplace, but it's not. It has set up here. It's just set up to shut the thing off, and so it's set up for a maximum alarm level. There's no pre-alarm in it. And people use pre-alarms to run a light, turn something on, a buzzer or something like that, that tell them that it's getting into a condition. So then it goes up further and then shuts off. So there's no pre-alarm in this. This thing is strictly shuts off when it gets to 60%. Now, like I say, on channel, well, 11 is you can raise or lower the percentage of what you want, and then when you push the enter button, that's what you're setting. Okay? $31. This is basically the schedule I went with that the engineer told me to set everything up, so to run it at an over and under load. So I'll probably have to get that and put it in the O&M manual, because it gives your windows and gives you examples of where to set things at, so to have an over and under load condition. But right now it's set up, and what you got here, if you go to 31, best thing you can do is sit down and look this thing over, and it makes a lot more sense than me sitting here talking to you about it. But 31, let me see, where's that? 31, start delay. In other words, you start the thing up, and there's something in it, it's trying to clean it off. This is your start delay on window 31.
Oop, you missed it all the way around.
All the way around. We got it set at 5 seconds. They recommend 2 seconds. 5 seconds, in other words, it tries to clean something off. It doesn't go into a delay and shut the thing off and sit here and make a nuisance out of it. So it gives you a little time to try to clean the thing off before it shuts it off. Okay, 32. 32 is response delay. In other words, as this thing's building up with overload condition. Okay, back up. 31 is the power rushing in to sees the amperage going up, and it gives you time before it reaches to levels out and comes back down. That's what 31 is. I got them backwards. And 32 is the load that's on it. So you build in some time so that if it's got a load on it, you can sit there and clean it off, and it keeps going. So 31 and 32 is your response delays for for delays and your response delays for rushing of your amperage rushing in, so it drops back down to normal and it stays running. So you don't want the thing, as it's building up, the amperage popping off and shutting off and making a nuisance out of it. You can reset those. And again, it tells you on 31 and 32. Then as you follow through with it, let's see, was 41. 41 is the horsepower. This thing's got 1 horsepower motors on it, and that's the motor horsepower in it. It's 0.99. I set it at 1 horsepower, and for some reason it reached 99. I'll change it again, but it's 1 horsepower on 41. You have to put your horsepower in there that's on the motor tag. 42 is your amperage. This thing has 1.4 amps, draws 1.4 amps. So you got to put that stuff in there. The rest of it is just, you can go through and check it out. You get up into the 60, you got your relays are on. We got 2 relays, normally open, normally closed type things. So you check those. Give you other things there that not useful, but basically the thing will come back to number 1 window, and it'll read out the percentage of what that thing's running at. So when I checked it here before, we was in the 30 to 40 percent range of running. So let's see, I went up to 60%. That gives you quite a bit. So if you need, like you say, if you want to drop it down, you can drop it down, or if you feel 60%, you're comfortable with 60%. I got no problem with that. Like I say, you can run the thing all the way up. I've had them up to 125% where we're trying to, what happens is when you get some of these things that are brand new and you get sharp edges on things, this thing will sit there and just keep tripping out. So you run the thing up to get this thing running. If you had a shear pin in it, you'd be breaking the shear pin all the time. So we just put bigger shear pin, but we keep an eye on things that we're running okay. Is it 61? Let me think. 61 channel on Windows 61 is latch, alarm a latch. If you didn't have that, if you had that thing off, the thing would sit there, go into an overload condition and snap back on. Go into an overload condition, snap back on. This way, with it on, you have to come out here and hit the reset. So you come out here and hit the reset, it start back up and trip back off again. Well, you got something's wrong out there, it's tripping out. So you got to figure out why it's tripping out. You have to hit the reset button. Well, somebody might have changed the percentage, dropped it down. You want to look at that. You might want to run the percentage up a little higher, see if that helps it. If it keeps tripping out and you have to hit the reset button to start it back up, you've got something jammed in or something's misaligned or something like that. So it'll always go back to channel 1 and monitor the percentage it's putting out. So you can get an idea of what's going on out there on channel 1, what percentage is pulling. If you've got something stuck in it or some means like that. Like I say, the best thing you can do is review this thing. Go through it. It tells